members that are in the building, would you please report to the council chambers? We have 6 members present and need 10 for a quorum. It is 10:17. Council chambers. We have 2 council members excused. We have 6 here, so 7 of you are somewhere. So if you could come on down to the council chambers, we'll get this show on the road. everyone. This is a meeting of the City Council of the City of Los Angeles on this Tuesday, the 10th of October in the year 2000. I'm Councilman Rudy Savornich Jr., Assistant President Pro Tem, serving as presiding officer today due to the excused absences of Council President John Ferraro and Council President Pro Tem Ruth Galanter. There are 15 council districts in the city. The City Council meets on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays beginning at 10 a.m. We are currently being broadcast live on Los Angeles Cable CityView Channel 35. The meeting will be rebroadcast this evening, as are all meetings of the City Council on the day the meeting is held. The meetings are also rebroadcast on Sundays beginning at 10 a.m. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Burtson, Chick, Fiera, Galanter, Gober, Hernandez, Holden, Miskowski, Pacheco, Padilla, Riley Thomas, Florence, Wax, Walters, Ferraro, 11 members present, and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next item of business.
On the regular agenda, item number 4, request that matter be continued till October 17th.
Without objection, so ordered.
Item number 14, this matter is requested to be continued by Council District 14 till one day until October 11th.
Is there any objection by any council member? Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, item number 5 on the regular agenda is a commission appointment, the appointment of Dr. William Burke to the Fire Commission.
Probably before we take that item, we should ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Councilwoman
Approval.
Walters moves.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Okay, the minutes are approved without objection, and commendatory resolutions are approved without objection. I believe we now have item number 5, Mr. Clerk.
Item number 5, appointment of Dr. William Burke to the Fire Commission.
Dr. Burke, please come forward and take a seat at the center table. Thank you for being with us this morning. It's always nice to see you. Do we have any council members that have anything to say prior to our voting on this appointment? Chair recognizes Councilman Burnson.
All I can say is this nominee is a little suspect. However, I think it's really tremendous that the bill is willing to take the time to serve the city of Los Angeles. I've been involved with many activities with him, and I can tell you that having somebody of his quality and his ability is a real plus for our city, so I would urge an aye vote, in spite of the suspect part.
Thank you very much, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Burnson. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Miskowski.
We did hear this in Public Safety Committee, and we're very pleased not only to recommend it, but pleased that with Dr. Burke's stellar community involvement and past history and experience, that we were very, very pleased to be getting a nominee of his caliber to a very, very important commission, particularly right now. The Fire Commission, with a lot that is going on, is going to, I think, very much appreciate the efforts and the involvement of Dr. Burke, and so we were happy to recommend this.
Dr. Burke, now everybody wants to say nice things, it looks like, hopefully. The chair recognizes Councilman Holden.
I think Burnson served with you in AQMD, is that right? And you want to do this also, right? So you want to come back to City Hall? Yes. All right. If you didn't know that, Dr. Burke worked on the staff of Billy Mills, one of his deputies, that many years ago. And I know he took a leave from work in 1968, when I first met him. He was throwing mail. If you didn't think his hands are rough and tough, he did that laborious type work. I can tell you, down in the post office throwing mail for Billy Mills and others. So this guy, not only will he work in the front office, but he gets his hands dirty and doing hard work. And I've also known him when he was doing some work in the state legislature for Donnelly and the speaker, Jesse Andrew, et cetera. So he's got a lot of government experience. Huh? So I'm going to ask him, I'm going to vote for you also. I mean, you're tough. That's what I like. Andrew, the guy who says about mother's milk.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Chick.
Yes, well, after both knowing Dr. Burke but listening to my colleagues, I'm not only welcoming you, but I'm figuring you're going to solve the whole paramedic crisis for us in the next 6 months, and I'm very much looking forward to working with you.
Well, thank you very much, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. The chair recognizes Councilman Hernandez.
Mr. Chairman, President, members of the council, I also rise to acknowledge Dr. Burke because of his previous efforts for the city, but to point out that he's as close to the inner city representation as we get. But Dr. Burke comes from Council District 6, and is replacing someone from 11, but that'll leave 2 members from Council District 12, 1 from Council District 11, 1 from Council District 2, and this one, in case we did not notice, but the Fire Commission was one of the commissions that lacked that geographic diversity that is important. So coming from Council District 6, it makes him the closest one to the inner city, and hopefully he'll keep in mind the needs of the inner city when we're dealing with issues like paramedic response time and fire response time, because it's the inner city that basically has been dealing with a lot of deaths because of the inability to deal with those older structures and our response time.
Thank you, Councilman. The chair recognizes the fine councilman from the Great 8th District, Councilman Ridley Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. I was being slightly distracted at that time, but I appreciate your rescuing me, Mr. President. I rise simply to say that the work that has been done on the AQMD under the leadership of Dr. Burke is noteworthy, and it has already impacted the environmental quality and justice issues that we're dealing with here in the city of Los Angeles. You might appreciate that there is work to be done that connects AQMD-related issues and concerns with that of fire protection and service, particularly as it relates to hazards of a variety of sorts. So I think it is, from the policy perspective, quite appropriate that this connection is made. And there is no person who I can think of at this point who's better suited to help make it, along with the range of other credentials that he brings to bear. And so it's with that in mind that I'm pleased to support Bill Burke's nomination.
Very good. Seeing no other council members that wish to speak, Dr. Burke, would you like to say a few words if you choose to do so? Otherwise, we'll proceed with a vote.
You can proceed with the vote.
Thank you very much. A very wise man. Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll on this appointment and tabulate the vote?
13 ayes.
That item is approved. Dr. Burke, thank you for your willingness to serve the people of the city of Los
Thank you so
Angeles.
much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Forthwith. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, item number 24, request this matter be continued in 1 day until October 11th.
Is there any objection to the one-day continuance on this item? Seeing none, that will be the order. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Items number 1 through 3 on the regular agenda are items noticed for public hearing.
Okay, we do have items number 1 through 3 before us. Is there any persons in the audience that would like to speak on items 1, 2, or 3? Okay, seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Are there any council members that wish to speak on items 1, 2, or 3? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll on items 1, 2, and 3 and tabulate the vote?
13 ayes.
That item is approved forthwith on those items. Next items, Mr. Clerk.
Items number 6 through 10 on the regular agenda are items for which public hearings have been held.
Okay. Are there any council members that wish to speak on items 6 through 10? There are no specials? Okay. Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll on items 6 through 10 and tabulate the vote?
13 ayes.
Those items are approved. Let's send those forthwith also. Next items, Mr. Clerk.
Items number 11 through 23, with the exception of 14, which has been acted on, are items for which public hearings have not been held.
Okay, are there any persons in the audience that want to be heard on items 11 through 23, except for the item number 14, which has already been dispensed with? 11 through 23. Okay, seeing no persons in the audience that wish to speak, are there any council members?
I'd like to call item 17 special.
Item number 17 special by Mr. Hernandez.
Holden, 18 and 23.
Mr. Holden calls items 18 and 23 special. Are there any other specials, colleagues? Okay, what are the items that we have in balance, Mr. Clerk?
Items number 15 and 16, 19 through 22.
Okay. Mr. Burnson calls item number 11 special.
Excuse me,
Brian
items
does not
number
call it special.
11 through 13,
There we
15,
are.
16, 19 through 22.
There we go. Okay, let's open the roll on those items and tabulate the vote.
13 eyes.
Those items are all approved. Let's send all of those forthwith. Okay? Yes. Next items, Mr. Clerk.
Items number 25 and 26 on the supplemental agenda are items for which public hearings have not been held.
Okay, 24, okay. Items number 25 and 26 on the supplemental agenda, colleagues. Does anyone wish to call those special? Otherwise, we'll proceed. Okay, Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll on items 25 and 26 and tabulate the vote?
13 eyes.
Those items are approved. Let's send those forthwith. I'd like to make an announcement. Mr. Stan Michoda, you had requested to speak on item number 24, and that item has been continued until when, Mr. Clerk?
1 day.
1 day. So, Mr. Michoda, item number 24 on today's agenda will be back tomorrow before the council. Just wanted to let you know. Okay, let us go back to items that are still before us, Mr. Clerk.
Item number 17 called special by Councilmember Hernandez.
Mr. Hernandez, item number 17, sir. If you would push your button, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'm quite aware of the signers of the motion being representative of the Budget and Finance Committee, but I don't think that's any reason why we shouldn't have an analysis done by the CAO's office or the CLA on the proposed concept of community courts. I was also bothered by the wording in the motion that talked about these courts being tested in Van Nuys or the Valley and downtown LA. And I think you mentioned Pacoima, but you didn't mention Northeast LA or East LA or South Central or the Harbor. But we're taking $50,000 from the reserve fund and piggybacking on the lead that the Budget and Finance Committee Chair took in regards to healthy neighborhoods and all the other issues that are facing the city. I wasn't sure we should just randomly be taking $50,000 from the unappropriated fund. So I was just asking for it to go to committee and be reviewed in that concept and an analysis as to where these drug courts might better be, I mean, if we're going to do a demonstration project, where they could serve the best need. I mean, not drug courts, but community courts that you're proposing.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. The chair recognizes Councilman Fuhr.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Let me clarify what's actually at stake. In the budget process that concluded in the springtime, there was an allocation of $50,000 set aside specifically for community courts in the unappropriated balance. This is not money from the reserve fund. It's money that we already allocated to the UB, pending what is now before us. And recall, we put things in the UB that without a specific focus beyond the general topic, community courts in this case, because there are details yet to be fleshed out. And indeed, those details have now been fleshed out, and here's what's on the table. There are 2 working groups comprised of the leaders of the court system, community activists, public interest lawyers, our office, other council offices, in 2 places in Los Angeles. One in the downtown area, in Central City East, the Skidder area, that territory, and the other in Van Nuys. And these projects are rather far along. In fact, several leaders of the court system accompanied some of us to New York to visit specific community court models in those jurisdictions to assess what made the most sense here. What was clear from all the discussions we've had with leaders across the country to develop community courts which attack quality of life crime by having the court system actually assign offenders to abate the problem that they've caused, as well as assure there's a social service intervener to diminish the likelihood that the perpetrator repeats the crime. We found that what's fundamental to that is having a needs assessment done first in each of the 2 areas before we actually implement the projects. Now, the money that's on the table would go to actually performing a needs assessment as to precisely which community quality of life problems are elevated to the highest level by people in those neighborhoods. But we have already in place substantial teams in each location. And the locations were chosen because there are very acute quality of life problems there. There are courts nearby. The police department, the city attorney's office, community activists are all working on this with public interest lawyers now. So what's on the table is merely to take what we allocated for community courts and put it into a specific facet of that project, which is performing the needs assessments for those areas, so we can get this extraordinary teamwork that's evolved among the court system and the others I mentioned to actually move forward. And I don't know if Mr. Deaton wants to comment on the motion as well from the CLA standpoint. I see Ron is here.
Mr. Deaton?
Mr. Hernandez, but in the budgetary process, the $50,000 was put aside for this purpose, and this would implement that by having ORS put together a request for proposal for the needs assessment in those two areas. My recollection in the budget process, it was talked about, because Van Nuys and downtown had the courts, that would be the place we would do it, and this provides ORS the opportunity to put together the request for proposal to carry out the budgetary intent of the language. So.
Thank you, Mr. Deaton. Thank you, Mr. Fuhrer. The chair recognizes Councilman Hernandez.
Members of the council, again, it seems that we're acting without any kind of a report, except an explanation of something that's going on, and I'm just not sure that that's the best way for us to set budget priorities. What's bothersome to me is when I'm dealing in communities that also have needs, we have to deal with reports and analysis and those kinds of things in order to get things done. And it doesn't happen overnight. Now, I don't have, it's $50,000, but again, our reasoning is there's a court in Van Nuys and there's a court in downtown. Is that what it's about?
And there was some activity in that area, in both of those areas. The other thing, my recollection of during the budget process was that this is what the council had put the money aside to do.
Right, but at that time, was there any basis for that decision?
Short of a council action, no.
And so we're being asked to release an RFP, basically asking ORS to release an RFP for $50,000 to do an assessment of the need for these things to happen in those areas.
No, the needs assessment, Mike, if I could understand.
Don't get me wrong. The reason I'm confused is I have nothing to look at except
Okay.
a motion.
Yeah, and if it's okay on your time to just finish, it's not that the needs assessment is done to determine this is a good idea. The needs assessment is done in conjunction with the teams that are in place in these two jurisdictions to determine which specific quality of life problems are best to be addressed by the community courts, because there are a whole plethora
At
of
those two
problems.
locations.
In these two locations where they're already, I don't know if you saw, for example, there's already a team.
So we
in
don't need
place.
to address the quality of life issues in MacArthur Park.
No, it's just that the belief is that there's no way to create these all over Los Angeles simultaneously, and we've had two projects underway for the better part
So
of a
what's
year and a
happening at
half.
the Rampart Division doesn't mean anything at MacArthur Park.
No, just, Mike, there are two projects underway for a year and a half in these two areas of the city to test the problem.
So
with
is
the
there any
courts and so
report
forth.
on what's been going on for a year and a half in those two communities that would allow me to justify supporting this?
There's no report in the council file regarding the activities in those two communities.
Is there a council file regarding
There
this?
there's an action the budget committee and the full council ratified to set aside the money for community courts, and a motion to now that we're ready to use the money, to use the money.
Yeah, Mr. Deaton, does the Brown Act allow 3 council members who sit on the same committee to, on their own, make budgetary decisions?
I'm not sure.
Well, this motion is signed by 3 council members who sit on budget and finance.
The actual budgetary decision, there's $50,000 in the UB for this purpose, and that was acted on by the council and the mayor.
Okay. Could I ask the city attorney that question on my time? Does the Brown Act allow for 3 council members who sit on the same committee to make a budgetary decision on their own without a committee meeting?
The advice of this office has been not to have more than 1 council member who's on a committee sign a motion at a time. That's been standard. But
Would this process allow for public input into the decision-making?
But you have to understand that you're having your discussion now. This is just to come up
On a Rule 16 motion?
on a Rule 16. It didn't go to committee. It's here to be discussed.
Okay, thank you, Madam City Attorney. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. The chair recognizes Councilman Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. Couple questions, Mr. Deaton or Mr. Fuhr.
Yeah.
You seem to be pretty informed on this item. Is this the community courts program, a model that, if successful in these two areas, you'd seek to replicate in other parts of the city?
Exactly.
Okay, because in my opinion, that only bolsters, I think, Councilmember Hernandez's argument for a need to begin to document and create a written basis for getting off the ground. If we're looking down the road at replicating in other parts of the city, it's good to have somewhere written where we can all study in all 15 council districts and communities throughout the city how it came about in Van Nuys and in downtown, so we can go about putting these same types of teams together to replicate it. Now, I have a specific question. Maybe, Mr. Deaton, you can help me on this one. In the Northeast Valley, part of the Valley Youth Initiative that we put together last year, we have the community court system run through the county. Recently partnering with the Valley Youth Initiative and the Jeopardy Foundation in a one-stop shop sort of a place to provide kids, young people, across the board, not just at risk, but opportunities for after-school programs, alternative educational programs, child care programs, job skills training, in addition to the community courts concept, because I think part of the efforts of community courts is to identify young people who may be straying away, but funnel them into a place where they'll get the appropriate counseling and case management attention so that they don't become hardcore criminals. Is that a similar concept to what we're trying to accomplish here in this community court?
My understanding of the community courts in this issue is that you provide not outside, but with the agreement of the judicial process, an alternate court that you go to resolve a lot of issues that you otherwise cannot, and provide the penalty, if you will, for whatever offense you've created is work in the community.
I agree, and part of my wanting to raise this is two reasons. Number one, at the state level, we had the governor sign AB 1913, which for the first time in a long time has the state taking a serious look at juvenile justice reform, because you know that putting kids away in jail is not the best way to reduce crime for the future in the state of California. Second, the council took on a big item a few months ago when the mayor had decided to end the funding for the Bridges program. And we restored that funding towards the end, but with the message loud and clear being, we have to look at new, more improved and effective ways at addressing these issues. And in addition to what they're doing, what community organizations are doing out in the streets, we're also having to look at effectiveness and efficiencies with our limited resources. So when we're being asked to put out $50,000, those are the questions that come to mind, because those are the considerations that came to mind when we put the partnership together in the Northeast Valley. And so a selfish question, the last question would be, here's $50,000 for 2 pilot areas. What can be done, or how can I go about getting a piece of this pie for a model that already seems to have built-in efficiencies in the Northeast Valley, arguably another area that could benefit from a similar type of program?
In this instance, this was acted on by the council and the mayor in the budgetary process, in which there was $50,000 added to the UB for such a community courts type process.
Yeah, but that was again done, and I was on the ad hoc at the time, done in general. Now we're coming out with 2 specific communities, and I think we're going to get a sense around the horseshoe that there's communities and districts throughout the city that are interested. And we've already said that this is a model that we're hoping to replicate in the future, and I think it's important to lay the groundwork to be able to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla.
I believe, and I may not be the best person to explain the differences, but the community court that is envisioned in this particular proposal is an alternative to the court system where people who have infractions and have done, are by their community group, if you will, a community court formed not of judges, but of themselves in some fashion, have penalties for cleaning up particular areas, and that's why the need for this particular type of a survey is that you're trying to provide an alternate form of justice, I guess, and use that to clean up the neighborhood where there's a stake in a particular area. My understanding, the reason for these two is that because the courts and probation, et cetera, are in close proximity to both of these locations, and some of the quality of life issues in both of those areas lend themselves to this kind of an experiment, is the reason for this this selection.
Thank you, Mr. Deaton. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Goldberg.
I think it's the last part of that that's giving me pause. If that's where the regular courts are located, and the regular probation process is located, why does that make it more likely to be where the community court process ought to take place? Maybe the community court process ought to take place where there aren't regular courts, and where you're talking about a community-based process. I mean, I don't know enough about it, but I think the thing that struck me about the explanation, and because I didn't really look at this very seriously until this discussion started, is that we're talking about taking the essential issues of an existing court structure, which is very formal. In both Van Nuys, they have major court buildings, and in downtown or the other major court buildings. There are smaller ones other places, in Hollywood and other places, but they're smaller by comparison. I'm just not understanding why we would want to try the community court, which is an alternative court system, in the locations where the regular court system is the giant gorilla. Why wouldn't you want to try it in places where you have a community-based organization? And so what it makes me concerned about is, how do you replicate it if you don't have court buildings, probation, and courts right there? If that's the model, this is not going to be easy to replicate. There are no other places besides downtown and Van Nuys that have major court institutions. So how replicable will it be?
Probably Mr. Fuhrer would like to have somebody at the table that is a better advocate of this than I am, but not that I'm not an advocate, but I'm, my reaction to that is that if you do not have the buy-in of the probation and the courts, et cetera, that you're going to have difficulty pulling this off. That's my
Well, I'll
defer.
yield, because I mean,
Yeah.
that's my difficulty.
Let me try to do this again. There have been for about a year and a half efforts underway involving tons of folks in two areas of the city, and just two areas, Van Nuys and downtown. The players have been community activists, the city attorney's office, police, the courts, poverty lawyers, a whole bunch of people in each location. The purpose of those efforts is to say the justice system isn't actively involved in improving the quality of life in neighborhoods here in Los Angeles. There are no other community courts actually anywhere in LA County. There are some, there's one in New
There
York.
aren't any in downtown or Van Nuys either.
No. And the
There
point is
aren't any anywhere.
No, well, they exist in New York and they exist in other
No,
jurisdictions.
I just wanted to be clear.
Right.
You said
And-
any other place.
Right, and so the point of the efforts that we've been engaged in both locations for a long time is to create pilot projects which could be replicated in areas where there's already enough infrastructure to actually change the system in our lifetimes relatively quickly.
I think that's my problem. Is enough already infrastructure means that areas that don't have that infrastructure
let me
will
be
never
clear.
get them.
No,
And thank you, Councilwoman Goldberg, and thank you, Mr. Fuhrer. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Walters.
Thank you. I obviously support the $50,000 allocation. Mr. Fuhrer is exactly right in terms of the length of time that this has been worked on. We've worked with Congresswoman Roybal Allard in trying to identify some funding, and there's a report here from the Los Angeles Police Commission authored by Dean Hansel, one of the commissions, dated September 28, 2000. And the initial statements are as follows. On November 30, 1999, the Board of Police Commissioners voted to establish a task force on the mentally disabled. The goals of the task force, as established by the Police Commission, are: 1, to establish a community court in Skid Row; 2, to develop a mechanism for having mental health professionals initially respond to calls of service instead of police; 3, to develop procedures for ensuring that mentally disturbed persons released from jail are either released in the communities where they were picked up or reunited with their families. The task force goes on to say that the community courts, they reference the Central and Van Nuys area, and they talk about the Central area, not because the courts are there, but because there are more mentally disabled homeless people in downtown on Skid Row than any place else in the city. And that is what presents the need for that court at that location, because the people are not getting attention. To go through the regular court process takes forever, and their needs are not addressed. The whole idea of a community court is to get some help to focus on these problems, to get them assistance, to get them, if they need medication, to get it, to try to get them to some kind of services that make them able to function in society outside of the dangerous living situation that is Skid Row. And so I think that that explains the location for itself. There's no place else in the city that has these elements in it that Skid Row does. And so the recommendations to from the task force to the police commission were that, 1, the Board of Police Commissioners accept the report of the task force, and 2, that the police commission support in principle the establishment of a homeless court and a community court to serve Skid Row. So I think that, and coupled with the idea that this is a pilot process, that we want to see what works, and hopefully a lot will work, and then I think would be the time for people to start talking about replication in other areas where they have these problems. But the critical mass of these problems, I emphasize again, is right here at Skid Row, right at our doorstep. And if anybody doubts that, all they need to do is travel a few blocks south and they'll see it.
Thank you, Councilwoman. The chair recognizes Councilman Fuhr.
Why don't we cut to the chase here? There have been several requests that there be written reports from the CLA and ORs to the council. Why don't we continue the matter a week for those reports to come in? And I'll also move.
Is there any objection to continuing this item for 1 week? Mr. Hernandez, you do have your button pushed. I'll recognize you at this time.
You know, members of the council, I really appreciate the explanation given by Ms. Walters. She has clearly some kind of a letter, some kind of a report that none of us had, and hopefully you can understand that questioning. And the reasoning that was given in her presentation makes all the sense in the world. And again, I will support the continuance. I rise to basically ask, why is it that these kinds of motions come before us without that kind of an explanation? Now, I'm not sure if the $50,000 is designated for that program.
For part, yeah, part of it.
Well, how much of it?
About half.
Okay, about half. And I'm not sure if the same issues exist in Van Nuys.
We'll have a report back, you can see.
Okay, and that's what I'd like to know. And at the same time, what was the process of developing that infrastructure? And when I say that, Mr. Fuhr, hopefully you'll share with us who all those community activists are and the work that's been going on, so that we can then have a greater understanding of what's being proposed.
Okay. Is there any objection to continuing this item 1 week? Okay. Without objection, that'll be the order. This item will be continued 1 week.
October 17th.
October 17th, Mr. Clerk?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Next item.
Item number 18, called special by Councilmember Holden.
Mr. Holden, item number 18, called special by you.
It's a complicated
Push your button,
motion.
Mr. Holden.
Yeah. rather complicated. I think the staff should explain to the council, and certainly to me as well, how they're going to enter into this transaction with the state without having clarification of what the state's going to do if we put ourselves in the limb to acquire all this property they're suggesting that we acquire. So can anybody come tell us why this is even in the boilerplate?
Do we have any representative of the Department of Transportation
Not
or
just
General Services
General
that are present
Services,
that
I
can
think.
talk about this issue? Okay, why don't we hold it on the desk?
Yes, we'll just do that.
And see if we could get staff
Yeah.
here. Okay, next item.
Item 23, called special by Councilmember Holden.
Mr. Holden, item number 23.
23 is,
You push your button again. Thank you.
Mr. Fuhrer can perhaps explain this. There's an ICO that was adopted August 11th this year for 120 days, and it applies to those landlords who have given tenants a 30-day notice prior to the adoption of the ordinance. And maybe Mr. Fuhrer can explain this because it's his motion. 30-day notice prior to the adoption of the ordinance. So once the ordinance was adopted, those tenants will remain in the unit for 120 days. And anyone to receive a notice of determination after the adoption of this ordinance, August the 11th, nobody would be removed from those units, whether it was before or after. And if there's a difference between the 30-day notice before the adoption of the ICO and after the adoption of the ICO, would you kindly explain it to me, Mr. Fuhrer? Would you hold my time while you do that, Mr.
Yeah,
President?
Mr. Holden,
Mr. President, would you hold my time while they do that? Mr. President?
I think I'm next. You can have part of my time if there's a problem.
Right. Would you hold my time while they explain?
Nate, as I explained, I know it's okay. You can use part of my time. In August, we passed the ICO for a 60-day period, pending further analysis in the committee. You'll see the motion is from me and from the chair of the committee to extend the period for the other 60 days that is allowed for an ICO, to allow for further analysis before the council takes a final action to make the ordinance permanent. So this is another temporary 60-day continuance
I thought you had
to allow for further analysis to happen.
120-day ordinance?
The ordinance, what's confusing is...
it was never approved.
The ordinance gives a tenant up to 120 days notice if they're not a senior or disabled. Set aside that's a time period of notice they get. The ordinance was in place for 60 days up to 120 days. And this authorizes the next and last 60-day continuance of the ordinance before it's brought before us and a vote is taken whether to make it permanent or not.
So
Because there
ICO
hasn't been that detailed analysis yet in committee, and that's yet to come.
So the now you can use my time. So the interim control ordinance was adopted
Thank you, Mr. Holden.
prior to the adoption of the ordinance.
Right?
So the ordinance has not been adopted yet.
A permanent ordinance has not been adopted. This
Has not been
continues the
adopted.
interim
So you extended the ICO for another 30
for the final 60 days.
For the final 60
So we can have the analysis that committee had.
Now,
had a chance
how
to do.
is it that the person who is given notice 30 days prior to the adoption of ordinance, they excluded from the terms and conditions of the ordinance?
No. During the period...
If they got a notice like 35 days prior to the adoption of ordinance?
During the period that the ordinance is in place as an ICO, from August 11th through the next 60 days, people who are in buildings which are subject to demolition would, for example, get the notice allowed for under the ICO. And then if the ICO is made permanent, they'll get it always, and if it's not, then future tenants won't get it.
So the
That's what we're saying.
ICO and it was retroactive?
No, prospective from the date that was passed. Only.
Then if a person was given notice 2 months before...
The ICO, then that person has the notice period that pertained 2 months earlier.
So they have to leave, in other words?
If that were the
They're
case.
not protected under the ordinance?
That's correct.
Well, you may as well protect them. The building's not going to go down anyway.
No. Okay.
Okay, the chair recognizes Councilman Fuhrer.
I move the question.
Okay, very good. Okay, we do have a speaker's card, colleagues. Even though we've closed the public hearing, I'm going to rule to allow her to speak. And that's Angela McGann from the Central City Association. We received this card late. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Angela McGann. I'm the legislative analyst for the Central City Association. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm speaking on behalf of the business and development community here today, and we respectfully request that you continue this item for a week to allow the development community to present their concerns regarding the potential harm that this ICO would do. The ICO does not allow new units to come online in the near term and has already had a chilling effect on the developer community. There are safety issues associated with the older stock housing, and we believe there should be a reasonable exemption for 25 units and below. This ICO presents a lack of certainty for the developers trying to put new units online and who are trying to move forward with projects that can be very beneficial to the community. We've met with Councilman Fuhr, and some of our representatives, Tri-Cal and Tom Saffron and Associates, have already asked that this ICO be reviewed. And again, we just respectfully ask for one-week continuance. Thank you.
Okay. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Miskowski.
I agree with Councilman Fuhr that this is something we should just extend for the next 60 days. I think a lot of the concerns that were raised in the public testimony are appropriate with looking at reasonable exemptions and where or how it should apply as we look at a permanent ordinance. And this is something that we will get back quickly, and I think that right now to pull the rug out from under those tenants who all that we're doing is complying with the state law which allows us to do this, having done it as an ICO while we are grappling with the whole ramification and issue of affordable housing and protecting tenants, it makes sense. So I concur with the motion to approve this 60-day extension.
Thank you, Councilwoman. The chair recognizes Councilman Bernson.
Yes, one of the reasons we need to do this is because we've still not acted on a motion which I brought in, and I believe Mr. Hernandez and Ms. Goldberg, I think, were involved in the sponsorship of it also, and that dealt with the replacement of affordable housing that may be torn down, that required a recreation of an equal amount within a certain area of that tear down. So I'm hoping that this other ordinance will come through very shortly so that we can act in the interest of preserving the stock of affordable housing, which is sadly under amount that we need right now in the city. So hopefully we can continue this, and hopefully we can get the other ordinance in place that will give us the ability to replace housing, even though it may be substandard in some cases, and we may want to replace it, but until we find additional housing or replacement housing for those people that are displaced and to accommodate the market, I think that we need to move forward with this. So I would urge an aye vote.
Is there any other council member that wishes to speak on this item? Okay, seeing no other council members that wish to speak on this item, Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll and tabulate the vote?
13 ayes.
That item is approved. Next item.
Mr. President, I'd like to move to reconsider item 25.
Mr. Pacheco has moved to reconsider item number 25. Is there any objection to reconsidering item number 25?
I have to change the dollar amount.
Okay. Seeing no objection, the item is again before us. Chair recognizes Councilman Pacheco.
I'd like to move to amend item 25 for the dollar figure of 50,000, not 15. Yes. It's the internal transfers. Thank you.
Is there any objection? Okay. We have the amending motion. We have the amending motion on the floor. Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll? Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That item is approved. Forthwith on that item. Next item.
Item number 18 is held on the desk.
Okay, we have we had Department of Transportation officials? Mr. Deaton?
Item 18 is basically allow us to take a look at the feasibility of, there are some properties along Main Street that Caltrans, first off, Caltrans has funding for the design of a building for the Caltrans headquarters on the parking lot on Main, Los Angeles, 2nd Street, and Main, Los Angeles, 1st and 2nd. And there's some properties along First Street that they would be interested in they've talked to us about the possibility of exchanging those properties if we were to obtain ownership for those for the existing Caltrans site when that is demolished. And this would allow us to work with transportation and with the Department of General Services to ascertain the feasibility of that financially and otherwise. And we would bring everything back to the council before any actions. This is just authorization to go ahead and take a look at the issue.
Mr. Deaton, would it be appropriate to have the reports first come back to the Transportation Committee and ITGS prior to coming to council?
Sure.
Okay. I would like to request that if I may. Okay.
You may.
Is there any, we do have Mr. Pacheco? No, that was for my motion. Okay, thank you. Chair recognizes Mr. Holden.
Well, he didn't tell you it would come back before June 31st next year. But that's what I'm assuming anyway.
June
has
30
We'll try
days.
to bring it back before June 31st, Mr. Holden.
That's July 1st. In any case, Mr. Deaton, you're suggesting something here that's confusing to most people, I would imagine. The fact of the matter is that the property fronting on First Street between Main and Los Angeles, some of those are historic buildings. The property fronting on First Street between Main and Spring are also have some historical value, and you're being suggested to acquire this property, at least between Main and Los Angeles, so to exchange with Caltrans for the piece of property they're on directly in back of that parking lot over there, for those of you who are familiar with it. And I would say to you that before we go that far, we haven't even cut the deal with the state as to what they would give up in terms of dollars to assist us in acquiring this property. You got to buy their businesses. And here you are now going to upset these businesses saying we're interested in buying you out, which is going to be much more costly than what Caltrans has invested in the land they have between Main and Spring Street fronting on Main. I think the approach, you already made up your mind, and I imagine that most of the councilmen go along with you when you make up your mind right or wrong. But I think the reasonable approach would have been to sit down and work out all of the details with Caltrans before you start spending a lot of money, and then later on down the road decide you don't want to go that way anyway. And we've just invested time and resources, which to me makes no sense. If you still want to do this, Mr. Deaton?
Yes, I do. I want to check out the feasibility of this approach.
I know.
And report back to council.
Then I want you to tell us
in
how much money you spent doing that and how much time you have set aside for this purpose, and they end up with doing nothing, or maybe spending more money you have to spend in order to acquire the property and the businesses on that funnel. Let the state do it if that's what they want. Let them pay for it. If they come up with a figure and they're satisfied with, and the appraised value of their property is less than what they're asking us to acquire, then of course let them pay the difference. That's the kind of thing you need to be talking about, because it is going to be a difference.
I believe that there's very likely going to be a difference.
That's right.
And the question that we're trying to determine is, what are the numbers? We can't make a deal or even the basics of a deal with the state until we have some understanding of what the numbers are for each of the pieces of properties involved. Once we have that, then we'll come back with a feasibility. And if it doesn't make economic sense, I think you know that I will not be recommending it.
Right. If I have to moan and groan during this debate, it reminds me of someone else, I'm going to sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. And Mr. Deaton, if we could get those reports back to both Transportation and ITGS on the Nate Holden Transportation Building, we would really appreciate it.
Before June 31st.
Yes, absolutely. Any other council members that would like to speak on this item? Mr. Holden likes that idea. What a surprise. Yeah, Mr. Holden thinks it's a good idea now. Is there any other council member that wishes to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll and tabulate the vote?
13 ayes.
Let the record show Mr. Holden voted aye. Next item.
Now it's time for public comment on non-agenda items.
We do have a person who wishes to be speak. Candido Maris? Candido? Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members. I was over at the police commission. Did they approve the $50,000 for the need assessment? Continue it for 1 week. I'll wait and hold my comments till then. Thank you.
Thank you, Candido. Mr. Clerk, next item.
Motions for posting and referral.
Without objection, those motions are posted and referred.
Council members request to be excused from council attendance. Councilmember Chick requests to be excused on October 11th to leave at 11:45. A motion is required.
Mr. Hernandez moves. Without objection, so ordered.
The desk is clear.
Okay, are there any adjourning motions, council members? Adjourning motions? Yes, we do. Okay, would the audience please rise? Chair recognizes Councilman Pacheco for an adjourning motion.
Mr. President, colleagues, I have three. First of all, I'll do two together. Obviously, everyone's very much aware of the tragedy that happened on Sunday, October 8th, in basically the Pico Aliso area. So I ask that we adjourn in memory of Stephanie Regosa. She was the 10-year-old child who was playing in front of her home, who was shot by what we understand to be a stray or ricochet bullet involving an exchange down the block from her home. And ask that we also adjourn in memory of Raymond Hernandez, the other deceased individual in that incident. He was 19 years old. These obviously are tragedies that occur in the community, and I know the community has responded very positively about working not only with the Los Angeles Police Department, but working with all the other social service agencies, including Homeboy Industries and Father Greg and Father Kennedy at Dolores Mission to somehow work to reducing the violence and the crime there. Also would ask that we adjourn in memory of Linda Lou Chavez Rodriguez. Her date of passing was October 9th, yesterday, at approximately 1 a.m. from complications of scleroderma. She is survived by her spouse, Arturo S. Rodriguez, or Artie Rodriguez. He's the president of the United Farm Workers. Linda was the second eldest daughter of Cesar Chavez. She worked with him since obviously an early age when he was first organizing. She was 49 years old, was the payroll manager for the union. She is survived by her children also, Olivia, Julie, and Arthur.
Everybody.
Chair recognizes Councilman Ridley Thomas.
President, members of the council, I'd ask that we adjourn in the memory of the following persons. Edward P. Roski Sr., the father of Ed Roski Jr., passed this weekend, and the services are being held today. Many of you already know that it was Ed Roski Sr. who built Majestic Realty into the entity that it is today. Secondly, Mr. President, members of the council, I'd ask that we adjourn in memory of J. Harrison Wilson, a gentleman who many will know as one of the pioneers in the African American religious tradition as it relates to music. Served as the head of the music department at Bishop College, and in the mid-70s relocated to Los Angeles as the minister of music at the Second Baptist Church. His familiarity with gospel, with spirituals, with anthems is well documented and deeply appreciated. He served in leadership capacities in the Southeast Symphony as well. J. Harrison Wilson was an icon in his own right, and as it relates to the African American community across the nation, he will be sorely missed.
Are there any other?
Second on Roski.
All members?
All members on Roski, yeah.
Okay. Are there any other adjourning motions? Okay. Mr. Clerk, would you call the roll? And from the chair, I would like to wish a Happy New Year to all the members of the Greater Los Angeles Jewish community. Seeing no further business before this council is adjourned. Have a good day.